My husband wants me to be a mother to his affair child. He confessed to an affair that resulted in a baby after the other woman died during childbirth and wanted me to help raise the child. Feeling overwhelmed and realizing I deserved better, I packed my things while he was away and left divorce papers for him. I am a 29-year-old female, and my husband, who is 44 years old, and I have been together for 5 years and married for 2. I met him at the church I started attending when I moved to a new city to begin my career. I work for an insurance company, and he is a pastor. I am aware that we have a significant age gap, but he was always kind to me and made me feel special. About a week ago, he came home and told me that we needed to talk. Through tears, he confessed that he had been having an affair with a woman from our community who is 34 years old. He told me that she had been pregnant with twins, but during labor, she and one of the twins passed away, while the other baby is in the neonatal intensive care unit NICU. He then said that we needed to step up, and he wanted me to convert my office into a nursery and set up a cot so that we could take turns caring for the baby. I was distressed and told him I needed some time to think. I was unsure if I could do this. He reminded me that I had made a vow in our marriage and said that God had blessed us with this child. He told me this was our cross to bear and that God would never give us more than we could handle. In my frustration, I told him that it seemed God had given the other woman more than she could handle because she had died. I know I should not have said that, but I was not thinking clearly. In response, he slapped me and said that I needed to serve my husband, that God had chosen me to be this child's mother, and that I needed to be a humble servant. Since then, I have felt so many conflicting emotions. Yesterday, I cried so hard that I vomited. A woman has died, and yet I feel bad for myself. I feel so ashamed. I always wanted children and had been saving for in vitro fertilization, IVF, because I am infertile, but now that I have the chance to have a child, I do not want it. I feel like I would be dishonoring this child's mother. When I pray to God, it feels like no one is listening. I feel like I am truly seeing my husband for the first time, and he no longer seems kind. He looks his age and exhausted. I want to abandon him and the child. I am only 29, and I know I can start over. I have a remote job, so I could take a day off when he goes to the NICU, pack my essentials, and leave. Neither he nor the baby deserves this, but while this is my circus, that is not my monkey. Update: I left. If that is all you wanted to know, there it is. For those who are curious about how the other woman passed away, since I shared so much of my personal life, it was due to an amniotic fluid embolism. I do not know much about it, but I understand that when it happens, things go wrong very quickly. We lived in a rural area, so they were not equipped to handle such an emergency. I did not leave right away, even though I realize now that I should have. It was not that simple. I stayed for 2 months, feeling that if I did not at least try to make it work, I would not be able to live with the decision. Not because I wanted to save my marriage, but because what-ifs already keep me awake at night. I went to marriage counseling with my husband, but it was ultimately a wasted effort. We attended Christian counseling, and it felt like the goal was for me to forgive him rather than genuinely help me process my feelings. I felt completely alone during that time. My parents and brother are deeply religious as well, and although they were not pleased with my husband's actions, they kept urging me to be a good Christian wife. I spent so much time trapped in my thoughts, doing what I believed was expected of me. This led to a state of derealization, which was one of the most disturbing experiences of my life. The sensation that nothing, my surroundings, my emotions, even myself, was real was horrifying. During this period, my husband brought the baby home, and although he initially tried to split the responsibilities 50-50ths, he eventually stopped trusting me with the baby because he thought I was lost in space. So he became the primary caregiver. When I was with the baby, all I could think about was how its existence had ruined my life. I would look into the baby's big blue eyes and wish that it would just disappear. At one point, I even caught myself wishing the baby would stop breathing. That was when I knew I needed to leave. Blaming and resenting a baby was not something I could justify or accept within myself. I do not remember much else from that time. It is mostly a blur. I sought therapy services through my job, and over time, I reconnected with reality. My therapist helped me develop a plan. I never felt afraid of my husband, and I believe the slap was an isolated incident. However, I still knew I deserved better. On a night when my husband had a long Bible study, he always took the baby with him because he did not trust me. I packed my essentials and left. Since I had met him right after college, I did not have much to take with me in terms of furniture or belongings. Everything I wanted to bring fit into 3 suitcases and 4 moving boxes, which I managed to squeeze into my SUV after some Tetris-like packing. I even changed my phone number online before leaving, but I left the divorce papers under his pillow, along with my lawyer's contact information, like a version of the tooth fairy for adults who deserve it. I was the primary breadwinner, and according to my lawyer, we were not married long enough for me to owe spousal support. I own my vehicle outright, we had separate bank accounts except for a shared expenses account, we filed taxes separately, and the church owned the house. My husband is being difficult about the divorce, but I hope it will be resolved soon. I found a decent apartment in a city a few hundred miles away. It is the biggest city I have ever lived in, and while everything is expensive, I like it here. I have a new therapist, made some new friends, and found a new church filled with loving people. Some days are harder than others, but I am mostly content. I know the pain will never fully go away, but I am working on reclaiming my life. I turn 30 next month, and I am hopeful that this will mark the beginning of my best decade yet. Next story. My husband cannot accept I don't like mustard. After a heated argument over a hot dog covered in mustard, I left and stayed in a hotel. He threatened divorce, which shocked me, and I began to realize how controlling he was. After several intense confrontations, we have been married for 2 years and dating for 5. We are both 34 years old. I am a woman and he is a man, if that matters. I am not a picky eater. In fact, I am quite adventurous, and every time I have traveled, I have made it a point to try dishes with unusual or uncommon ingredients just to say that I have tried them. There are very few foods I will not eat. One of those foods is mustard, the condiment. I do not like mustard. I simply do not. The taste is very strong and overpowering, and it is an unpleasant flavor for me. I have tried yellow mustard, stone ground mustard, honey mustard, artisan mustard, brown mustard, spicy mustard, you name it. I have tried them all, and I still do not like any of them. For some reason, my husband never understood this. He loves mustard, especially honey mustard. He puts it on all his sandwiches and dips his fries in it. And every time he tries to force me to try it. He insists that I will like it this time. But I am a grown woman, and I know what I do not like. I do not like mustard. When I tell him no, it often turns into a small argument where he calls me picky. Last night, we were on the road heading home from a weekend trip we took together. He stopped at a gas station to get us a quick bite to eat. He bought a hot dog covered in mustard. I got one too, but decided to keep it plain. I do not love hot dogs to begin with, but I will eat them. While we were waiting in line, he asked what I got on mine. I told him I got nothing. He became furious and grabbed the hot dog from me. He marched over to the condiment station and began slathering mustard on my hot dog, telling me to grow up and stop being picky. I simply walked out and sat in the car. I no longer wanted the hot dog at all. My appetite was completely gone. He came back and began screaming at me for embarrassing him even more. For the first time ever, the word divorce was mentioned. I secretly recorded him screaming because I was genuinely afraid for my life. He was driving erratically, swerving, and speeding. I am staying in a hotel tonight. He ignored me all day at work, but now the calls have started after he realized that I was not coming home. I am receiving non-stop voicemails and text messages. He even sent me a screenshot of a Google search for local divorce lawyers. I have not eaten anything all day, and I have been sobbing in this hotel room. I do not want to get divorced, and I wish I had just eaten the mustard. Anyone, please give me an explanation. Am I in danger? Why would he react this way to a simple food preference of mine? I feel completely broken right now. Update 1. To answer a few questions. Regarding when I said no to sex, he did respect it if I said no to having sex, but he would repeatedly ask for oral sex. At first, I used to give in, but over time I began to dread it. He even bought all sorts of products to try to make it more enjoyable or easier for me. I used to like giving oral sex, but I no longer enjoy doing it for him. Yet, he continues to ask over and over. I started responding with, I said no. Are you going to force me to do it? He would get upset and offended that I was implying he might assault me. As for my support system, I do not really have one. I have always been someone who keeps a small circle, and I lost touch with casual friends from college. My friends are his friends. It makes me feel like a loser, but I do not really have friends of my own. Both of my parents are dead. My father passed away when I was a teenager, and my mother died recently from heart failure. I do not have any siblings. I am financially capable of living on my own and could afford a divorce, but I never wanted things to turn out this way. The mustard issue was always just a minor annoyance to me, not something I thought would lead to this, but apparently it is a deal breaker for him. We do not have children or shared property. Our finances are separate, except for one joint account we both contribute to for household bills. We were even planning on buying a house together. I am safe. I am currently at work and staying in the hotel for now. He continues to text me. One of his messages said that he loves me and does not want to lose me, but that I have forced his hand by refusing to communicate or come home. I have not responded because I do not know what to say. I forced myself to eat my favorite takeout late last night, but it tasted like cardboard. I stayed up late making a list of every time he has shown worrying behavior. I guess mustard is just the tip of the iceberg. Update 2. I want to sincerely thank everyone for their kind words and the links to resources. He has gone back to saying that he never wants to see me again, so I guess that gives me some time to read the book someone on Reddit suggested, though I cannot remember the name right now. I will admit, while at work, I thought about the empty hotel room that was waiting for me and considered just going back home. But I know what will happen if I do. I am too drained to even come up with the kind of apology he would expect for things to return to normal. I also do not want to apologize. I do not think I did anything wrong, and many of you have helped validate that. I always felt like I was the one disturbing the peace. He would get so upset over things that required little to no effort on my part to simply go along with because I loved him. Somewhere along the way, I think I lost myself. I have never liked mustard. I never liked golf, camping, or red wine either. But he loves those things and wanted me to love them too. He said he was introducing me to his hobbies so that we would have shared interests as a couple. But now, I realize that out of everything I used to enjoy, he has either refused to try or ignored my interests. Our shared interests are just his. How do I start feeling like my own person again? My world broke apart just 2 days ago, and now I am sitting drunk at a hotel bar switching between Reddit and researching divorce lawyers. I still do not want a divorce. It feels so permanent. I never imagined myself becoming a divorcee. I used to take pride in the fact that every choice I made deliberately. But now he is making this choice for me, and it hurts. Update 3. I took this week off from work at the encouragement of my employer. My plan is to spend this time finding a therapist who specializes in domestic abuse and sexual assault, which I have come to realize that I am a victim of. Right now, I feel completely numb. I am also looking into finding a divorce lawyer. Earlier this week, my husband found the hotel where I was staying. I guess he followed me from work. He was waiting in the hotel lobby when I arrived. My heart skipped a beat when I saw him, and in that moment, I realized that I did not miss him at all. I was afraid of making a scene in public, which is something I need to unlearn, so I sat with him in the lounge area to talk. I will summarize the conversation. I pointed out the security camera in the hotel lobby and told him that if he tried to hurt me, there would be footage and I would press charges without a second thought. He seemed shocked and claimed he would never hurt me. I reminded him that I feared for my life when he was driving erratically in the car. He ignored that comment and instead asked why I was not coming home. I told him very calmly, "Because you are divorcing me." He responded by saying that he did not mean it and was just upset. I told him that when normal people are upset, they express it in a healthy way. "You threatened the end of our marriage, and I am taking you seriously," I said. He got angry and asked if I was suggesting that he was not a normal person. Honestly, at that point, I just wanted the conversation to end, so I told him that if that was all he had taken away from our discussion, then there was no point in continuing to talk. I informed him that I was looking for a lawyer and suggested that he do the same if he had not already found one. This made him lash out, and he said, "All of this over one mistake?" I just stared at him. As I got up to leave, he grabbed my wrist hard. I pointed at the camera again. This only made him angrier. He has always had difficulty handling slights to his ego. One mistake. It was not just one mistake. It was a pattern of abuse over several years. It was his attempts to intimidate me. I told him that if he tried to contact me again, beyond sending me his lawyer's details, I would call the police. He let me go. I wish I could say that I felt powerful and celebrated after our conversation. In reality, I collapsed onto the bed in my hotel room and began sobbing. I felt so sick, angry, and sad. It became clear to me that he truly does not care about me. I spent the rest of the day crying on and off while calling local therapists. Finding a therapist has been frustrating, as so many advertise that they are available, but then I find out they are not accepting new patients. I have also been looking into domestic violence and domestic abuse support groups. In less than a month, my entire life has completely changed, and my husband does not seem remorseful at all. He still believes that all of this is my fault. Update 4. I have a divorce lawyer now. That is all I am comfortable sharing at the moment. I will also say that I have moved to a new location and I am safe. My workplace has allowed me to work fully remotely now. My soon-to-be ex-husband does not know where I am staying, and there are no trackers on my phone. I have also reached out to people and organizations who are offering me help. Earlier this week, my husband's calls and texts escalated. I was advised to leave his number unblocked but muted so that his messages would still come through. Out of curiosity, I read a few of them. In one, he begged me to join him for Thanksgiving dinner with his family. He pleaded with me to stop behaving this way and asked, "What am I supposed to tell my family?" Well, Thanksgiving came and went. Instead of having dinner with my soon-to-be ex-husband's family, I bought myself some ready-made meals the night before, which became my Thanksgiving feast. I want to take a moment to talk about my mom. Growing up, since it was just the three of us, my mom, dad, and me, we never had a traditional Thanksgiving meal. My mom would buy a rotisserie chicken and dress it up with stuffing and sides that we loved. My favorite side dish was always French fries, and my dad loved grilled asparagus with cheese. We would have rotisserie chicken, French fries, asparagus, and garlic toast, which was my mom's favorite. I remember one year when I had a traditional Thanksgiving meal at a friend's house for the first time. I was confused and loudly asked where the fries were, much to my mom's amusement. So this year, instead of eating traditional Thanksgiving food or going to my husband's family dinner, I made myself a meal of asparagus, fries, garlic toast, and some rotisserie chicken. It was not nearly as good as my mom's meal, but I cried while eating it because it felt like my parents were with me in that moment. It seems that my absence from the dinner forced my soon-to-be ex-husband to tell his family that we were separated. The next morning, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. I answered, thinking it might be my lawyer. It turned out to be my mother-in-law. She begged me not to hang up, so I stayed on the line. She went on and on about how I was like a daughter to her and how much she and her son loved me. She asked how I could leave him over something so minor. Apparently, my husband had only told his mother about the mustard incident and had watered down the story to make it seem like I was a neurotic control freak. According to her, he just offered me some mustard and I started screaming that I wanted a divorce. She also started probing me about which lawyer I was seeing and reminded me that lying in court was a crime. Thankfully, my lawyer had already warned me not to reveal any information to his family. I hung up and muted her number. Trust me, I would have loved to send her the recording of her son screaming that he ought to hit me, calling me a stubborn bitch, and threatening to drive the car off the road if I did not start behaving. I have come to realize that my husband does not treat me with love. Normal people do not push someone to have sex after they have already said no. Normal people do not obsess over food preferences like he does. There is something seriously wrong with that man. Last night, he texted me again, calling me a bitch for making his mother cry. He also threatened to come find me, saying that a locked door would not be enough to keep him from taking me back home. I forwarded these messages to the appropriate authorities. This may not be a happy update, but things are progressing. Date 5. I have moved to a new home. I will not say where, but I have found a place that I love. My workplace has officially let me stay on as a permanently remote employee. I cannot provide too many details about my divorce or the other ongoing legal proceedings, but I can share that I have been granted a protective order. This was due to something that happened back in December, which resulted in my hospitalization for a short time. That was when I knew I needed to get out for good. I traded in my car, had my phone checked for tracking apps or devices, and changed my phone number. My soon-to-be ex-husband is no longer able to contact me or have anyone else contact me on his behalf. I am now several hours away from him, both physically and emotionally. I moved with just 2 suitcases and a duffel bag of my belongings. I cannot wait to decorate my new home the way I have always wanted to. I am currently in therapy and attend a weekly survivor support group. I will be okay. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I can finally breathe again. Update 6. Hello. It has been a while since I last posted. I had almost forgotten about this account until I saw some screenshots of my posts on Instagram. Here are a few key updates. I am still attending therapy. I am doing individual counseling and attending bi-weekly group meetings for victims of domestic violence. I am absolutely not dating right now. I have seen comments from people hoping that I will find a fairy tale partner, but that is the last thing I want or need right now. I am focusing on achieving independence and learning to love myself before I even consider finding a new partner. It will probably be years before I am ready to date again, and I am perfectly okay with that. I have discovered a new love for cooking and trying out different cuisines. I never realized how boring my ex-husband's taste in food was until I left him. Slathering mustard on a cheap hot dog does not exactly qualify as having superior taste buds. I had to get that jab in somewhere. Nothing dramatic or new has happened in my life, and I like it that way. What matters most is that I am alive, I am happy, and I did not realize how much of myself I had lost until I finally had the space to rediscover who I am. That is all I am willing to share for now. Peace and love to everyone. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more interesting stories and perspectives, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with your friends. Don't miss out on more interesting videos. Click the video on your screen to check out my previous interesting content. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. See you in the next video.